Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Expectations of an Avid Gamer. And today we will be talking about Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. You know, after Bayonetta 3 was a bit lackluster for me, I was curious as to what direction the series would take, especially since I wasn't too fond of what they did to Bayonetta at the end of the game. Well, I think it's safe to say that I enjoyed Bayonetta Origins thoroughly. First off, the story is great. Shocker coming from me, I know, but I genuinely enjoyed it. It was a bit of a slow start, but eventually I got to a point where I just couldn't put it down, and I was breezing through the chapters. There's plenty of great character moments. Some were predictable, and some were boring, but the highs that landed were high. Bayonetta is a fledgling witch in this outing, a stark contrast from her confident older self. She's an unsure teenager who really just wants to see her mummy. I loved her timid and scared role this time around, as it shows just how much she's grown. I was actually surprised to find out she's 15 in the title when she acts more like her 6-ish-year-old self from the original title at times, but it makes sense. We're seeing her grow into the ass-kicking woman from later, and we did know that her life was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. She fails to summon a demon under the tutelage of her strict mentor, another outcast, and that leads to the Forbidden Avalon Forest, attempting to conjure another demon. While she does succeed, it's trapped in her stuffed Cheshire doll, leading to call it as such the whole journey. The chemistry back and forth between Cereza and Cheshire is fantastic. It takes the reluctant allies route and flows with it excellently. I enjoyed the few twists the game presents, and the foreshadowing for it was well executed. Part of that may be my vast knowledge of stories, so I was able to guess a few things, but that didn't ruin the overall experience. The voice acting and sound design brought everything together. Since the tale is told similar to the still scenes we're familiar with, as opposed to rendered cutscenes, a lot of the game hinges on voice acting. And as I did praise her in the Bayonetta 3 video, I need to praise Angeli Wall once more. Considering this is her first major role, she did spectacular for making me feel exactly what Cereza felt. Lonely, scared, and pathetic at times. The only nitpick I really have against the game as far as voice acting goes is there's no dedicated voice for Cheshire. As it's a storybook, the narrator voices him in a different voice. While I understand it's more of a telepathic connection with Cereza rather than speaking out loud, I believe a different actor playing off her would have worked much better. The music is appropriately storybook themed, sounding very much like you could imagine a Brothers Grimm tale themed soundtrack, with Bayonetta sounding tracks as the game progresses. While we don't get any moon-themed songs this time, we do get the bombastic battle themes when appropriate. I'm not too crazy about the dual-stick control scheme, but you don't have to have it active most of the time, so it's not too much of a hassle. You switch between battle sections and puzzle sections, and while both are fun, the puzzle sections seem more balanced out. I feel like instead of having the various potions that Bayonetta could use, maybe she could have a variety of spells to cast rather than just the bind spell. I know she's a witch in training and not that good at it when the story starts off, but it would have made her a bit more useful in combat. As is, I mostly barreled over everything with Cheshire and tried to keep Cereza out of the way unless I really needed the bind spell. As you go through the game, you collect elemental cores, unlocking more abilities for Cheshire, and while it mixes up battles by having different fairies have buffs that you'll need to use them against, it's also used for backtracking, giving the game a nice Metroidvania feel. I adore the art style used for this game. Considering Bayonetta 3 fell flat with graphics that couldn't keep up with the system, seeing something work completely well within the game with no noticeable downgrades was fantastic. I love how everything has both a hand-drawn look as well as a fabric look most of the time. One final thought on the story. I have expressed my dislike for how the story of Bayonetta 3 was handled multiple times, and sadly the very ending, the secret chapter of Jean, loops back into it. Singularity shows up a la Baldur at the beginning/end of Bayo 2, and I didn't care for it. It contextualizes some things with Jean in hindsight, such as her not fearing death in the second game, but seeing as Singularity wasn't that fleshed out in 3, I could have done without him here. Bayonetta 2 had the decency to explain what happened with Baldur, while Singularity remains an anomaly, and it does bring down the game for me ever so slightly. It may even make yet another variant of Bayonetta, along with what seems like an entirely different Luca-On, which is confusing in and of itself. I'm not sure what's happening with the series, but I'm still here for the wild ride, and will continue to be. All that aside, the game has hug mode. Hug mode. Like, it's pandering to the side of me that likes cute things, and that's adorable as hell. So from now on, any game that has a hug mode is an automatic 10 out of 10. There was so much care put into the game. I can't tell if another separate team within Platinum made the game, although it seems likely with the Team Little Fairies at the start of the credits, but that may be a joke. Either way, I don't know why it feels like more care was put into this game over Bayonetta 3, but I'm glad the series won't be tarnished by the ending of an otherwise great game. If these side stories about Bayonetta's origins keep coming out in between or alongside the main title, such as this one has, I think I'll continue to love my favorite ass-kicking witch. Thank you for watching, and try not to die out.